What? They just stopped attacking. NIDUS is so damn overpowered. I might have bitten off a little more than I can chew. But far be it for me to deny you the build that I promised, of course. So, let's check this out. So I looked at all your comments, and basically, there is one thing that you would want to have be negative, and that is efficiency. Allow me to explain it. So, I've put in Blind Rage here, and that puts our efficiency at 50%. If you hit 4 enemies, no matter what this ability costs, it'll always net 0 energy. You will always have the energy you started with. But if you hit more than 4 enemies, then having negative efficiency makes you gain energy. And what that means is that with the amount of efficiency that I have, if you hit just 6 enemies, you practically get a free larva along with your Virulence cast. So you end up getting a lot of energy. You can fill up your whole energy bar just by using your Virulence once into a crowd. So I decided to make the efficiency negative because it lets us get lots of power strength with really efficient mod space, and it actually doesn't make you have less energy. Duration is the second thing. That's the second least potent thing. A few of you pointed out that having your larva last less time is good because then you can pull in more enemies with it, like more times, since you can only have one out at once. But others of you pointed out that having his 3 and his 4 last a long time is really good, and that's true, but there's really no compromise, so I decided to do nothing. I just have not changed the duration at all. It is perfectly reasonable to want to adjust it yourself. You could put primed continuity in to make your 3 and your 4 last a long time. That's pretty reasonable. I see the most of you doing that out of anything, but you could possibly also make the duration worse. Adjust it if you want, but I think it's better to just leave it. And then range. Range is the thing that I have maxed out. So the reason I maxed out range is because it's the only thing that does something to all 4 of your powers. So with maximum range, we have a extremely long one. So I'm going to cast it and try and chase it to see its whole length. It goes really far. Very, very far. So yeah, I mean, sometimes this doesn't help you, you know? But it is pretty nice to have. It's really cool to be able to just like shoot your one and have it go like across the universe. It's just kind of fun. I think it's an enjoyable thing to do. If you have a hallway or like a long corridor, you can just cast it and hit like the entire world, and it's a lot of fun. And obviously it's a pretty good ability to have a lot of range. And then your larva will pull in enemies from all over the place, which is really, really helpful, obviously. And it also gives your 3 a longer tether radius. In other words, you can stray farther away from the target of your 3, and still here, I'll start showing you this stuff. These are level 110 enemies. I'm gonna try not to use my weapons too much, which I'll talk about in a sec, by the way. So we're gonna start off by grouping enemies together a little. See, it pulled an enemy from all the way over there because I have such long range. Now I'm gonna have to be careful because my efficiency is really low, so I have to get a very good initial pull if I want to get a lot of mutations. So I'm going to shoot that in there, pull all those enemies together, hit him. As you can see, I have easily infinite energy. I'll make it all back every time. Now I'm going to tether one and keep going. You shoot 2 virulences, one from your tethered enemy and one from you when you have a tethered enemy. As you can see, I'm now well over 20 mutation. Drop my ultimate. And now this is my tether, and as you can see, I can go pretty far away from it and still be protected. And I'm, you know, this is level 110 enemy fire, and I'm doing just fine. I should be just fine. So, fantastic. The last thing that it affects, the last thing that range affects that's pretty good, is when your maggots get killed, the maggots that are spawned by your 4, when they explode, they give you a mutation notch for every enemy that the explosion hits. But the thing is, the explosion has a radius, and that radius is now really big because we have a lot of range. So you end up getting a lot. As you can see, I'm passively gaining lots of mutation just from my little maggots exploding. You know, I gained more than 3 times the amount of mutation that I paid to get that 4 in the first place. Now I'm just gonna use my 4 and then use my 3 on this guy, and I'm gonna stand here while we talk about this build a little bit more. And you'll notice that my mutation is going to be higher than it was when I started, because when the maggots explode, they hit so many targets and you get lots. So that's why the range is that way. Now I'm going to explain the strength, which is the reason that I can just stand here basically immortal for this entire time. So you want the strength to max out the damage reduction on your umbilical cord, and that comes at 90%. Once your umbilical cord is reducing 90% of damage, you have max damage reduction on it. So you want to make sure you have enough strength for that. but I kind of feel that this ability's scaling, your 1's damage scaling, is not, it's not that it's not good, because it is very good, but when enemies get enough armor, it's not gonna matter. You know, like, see, we're at 84, 85, 86, and this is on almost 200% power strength. Like, they just have too much armor. So, that's the build, right? I used Intensify to give us back some power strength since we have overextended. And then if your Blind Rage was rank 10, you would have almost exactly maximum damage reduction on your 3. So you see I have 175%, and if you look at my 3, we're at 87.5% damage reduction. So with one more rank in your Blind Rage, you will have 90% damage reduction, which is the cap, which I think is the best amount to use. And you also have very good healing on your 4. So the rest of the build is armor and health, obviously, and then natural talent and rage. So rage is pretty obvious. It lets you begin using your 1 and your 2 to build mutation stacks. You do have to be very careful because you are vulnerable during that time and you might die, but it's still very helpful. It gives you a lot of energy for free. I run Xenuric focus on almost everything, but it's really unnecessary on this build. I'll probably play around with Madurai or something I haven't used very much, just for fun. And then natural talent, a lot of people said that they thought this was a great idea. From what I can tell, it is at least glitchy with your 1. It's still really good for your 2, your 3, and your 4, which are things that you want to snapcast. You know, you want to be able to do it really, really quick on command. So that's the build. I chose Steel Charge because my option for healing is the Hirudo, and they give you 5% healing for each crit you do, so having more melee damage is good. If you are willing to put the Forma in, though, it is pretty much always going to be better to use Corrosive Projection in this slot. I'm just lazy and didn't want to Forma that slot. So, let's talk about the weapons now. As I said, the Hirudo are going to be my healing option. These are one of the weapons that's packaged with Nidus, and you can see why. With this weapon, and Nidus's 2 and his 3, you can do your full sustainability combo and your healing even if you have no energy, which is a very, very unique trait among Warframes. Most of the time you need energy to keep an ability up, or energy for life strike, but with Nidus and Hirudo, you can do it with no energy whatsoever, which is a very powerful quality, right? I got a comment on the Loki video where somebody was like, what do you do if you face a squad of energy leech Eximus? And I was like, well, that kills everyone in the game. And then I was like, oh ho ho, it actually does not kill Nidus. So this is my build for Hirudo. Basically, it's the classic, you know, Blood Rush, Berserker, Organ Shatter, Body Count, Pressure Point, and then I just put in as much damage as I can because we don't need Life Strike, and you heal based on how big your crits are, so you really don't need it. So I'm going to now fight some enemies again with my Hirudo, and I'll try not to use anything else. And you'll get to see that the incredibly badass breakdancing that you do is punctuated only by the veracity of the healing that you get. As you can see, with no protection besides my mods, I'm easily able to sustain my health against these level 110 armored enemies, and I'm cutting through them pretty quickly as well. Now, the one unfortunate thing about this weapon is there certainly are slightly better body count and blood rush weapons. You know, it has a little bit low crit chance. It's got only 15% base crit chance. The critical multiplier is quite good, and with body count you will build up your crit pretty nicely. But there are better damage weapons, you know. It's just that this one gives you the healing for free and with very little effort. You can also apply the healing when it is not your active weapon, which I'll show. It also makes you not breakdance, which you might not want, but too bad. So if you just use your quick melee like this, as you can see, I still heal. You do like rapid consecutive normal punches, if anybody knows One Punch Man. And it's not bad at all, like your damage is still great. This weapon is a good spin attack, although it's not really a spin attack, it's like a kick, because that's what sparring weapons do. Like that. Ragdolls enemies pretty hard. But yeah, as you can see, you have absolutely no problem going toe-to-toe with a whole squad of level 110 enemies. You will never normally fight enemies in the game that are this strong, and this weapon alone, on basically any Warframe with decent armor and health, with no effort, like literally right now, I am just scrolling the mouse wheel down. I set that to melee attack. I am scrolling the mouse wheel down and not doing literally anything else, and I can easily survive and kill the strongest enemies in the entire game. So yeah, Hirudo is amazing. It's an incredible weapon. It's extremely fun to use. It's really, really strong, and it's not very hard to build. If you don't have the Hirudo yet, all you have to do is build a Kogake, which is pretty cheap materials. You just buy the blueprint in the marketplace. And then to build the Hirudo, you need a Kogake, some trivial components, and then you need 3 Nitane, which is the only annoying part. But it's pretty cheap for what is arguably the best overall melee weapon in the game at this point. It's also extremely fun. So yeah, it's incredibly cool. That's probably everyone, I don't care. So Hirudo, that's why Hirudo. And honestly, you could stop there. But of course, that's not how we roll on this channel, right? So let's keep going. I took the Akstilleto Prime because I thought you might like an actual gun in your build. Don't pay no attention to this jank. We'll talk about that in a sec. But yeah, Akstilleto Prime. A couple of people have been looking for an updated Akstilleto Prime build, and I've made one. And I also thought it would be nice to just have a simple, overall, all-around good gun. The thing about NIDUS is he does have a lot of mechanics, so sometimes you want just like something nice to fall back on, you know? So Akstilleto Prime is a good candidate. Here's my full Akstilleto Prime build. This is just damage, but this weapon has pretty good crit, okay crit, and pretty good status. So I've decided to just not overly focus on either of those things. I have crit mods in because they're good, but basically it's just an all-around pistol. This is probably the most well-rounded secondary in the entire game. It has good fire rate, good ammo efficiency, good crits, good status chance, good damage types when you build it the optimal way. It's just a very, very good all-around weapon. This is my build for it. It's worth noting very quickly that if you're fighting armored enemies like what I was just fighting, you are better off getting rid of all of this for status chance. Just get all status chance and try to stack corrosive procs. That will do way more damage than all of this crit and raw damage. Bad. You need status procs when enemies have that much armor. But for normal star chart and sorties, this is the build. So now onto the piece de resistance, the Paracyst. So you might ask yourself, Zandy Pants, I understand the Akstilleto Prime best secondary in the game overall, and I understand the new best boy Hirudo, and Nidus is broken, but what's up with this jank? What's up with this jank? Why do you have this ugly looking balloon at your side? This is pretty good. This is pretty suitable, but what's up? The most important thing when you play Nidus, like if you were to think about just like what is the most important aspect of playing Nidus when you're playing Nidus, the most important thing is that you have a good tether target, and that you don't lose your tether target. What I mean is your umbilical cord thing. So like when I fight these enemies, let me just get a little bit of infestation, mutation. As long as I have my 3, I'm pretty much safe. I'm taking 90% less damage. I have a weapon with massive healing, completely massive healing, and that's that, right? So I thought that it would be interesting to play around with a couple of methods to make sure that you can tether to a target that is where you want it to be. I'm about to get too far away. My tether's about to break. It should be about to break. Look at this range, damn. Okay, there we go. So now I'm going to take out my Paracyst, and the Paracyst's secondary fires a grappling hook, like that. Oh, goodbye. But as you can see, it fires a grappling hook, pulls enemies off the map, and if I can get one to stay on the map, there we go. There. So now I wanted to be in this corner because it's a more defensible position than being out there in the open. So I use my Paracyst to pull this enemy closer to me so that he's where I want to set up my little infested base here. And now I have a very defensible position with my surrogate health pack just sort of chilling there. And I can very safely roam off, do some damage. If I take too much damage, or just like any damage, I can just go back. And I know that I'm never going to be out of range of this guy because I can move them wherever I want. So let's say I want to make a new thing. So I'm going to take out my Paracyst again. I'm going to unbind this and then pull him over here. Oh, off the map again. And then grapple to them and create an infested thing. So you can always, even if you only have a few enemies, you can always move the enemy to where you would like it to be for your little base. Now, is this completely extraneous? Yes. Like, is this totally unnecessary? Yes, it's completely unnecessary. But it's kind of cool, and it does make you a little bit better in some situations. Nidus is so overbearingly powerful that I decided it was time for some jank, and that's my jank. But it does not stop there. What about the weird-looking balloon, you ask? Well, the Diriga has a couple of special little precepts, which we're going to show you right now. So as you can see, it has fired a taser laser at this guy, who's now freaking out, partially because of my maggots, but partially because of the taser. So your Diriga will periodically stun lock an enemy that's close by to you, which will perform much the same function, right? It'll hold them still while you get ready to tether to them. So your Diriga's like, hey, look over here, this is a good target for you to tether to. And you're like, oh, perfect, like, thanks, Diriga, let's tether to that target. And then you can tether to that target. So it's, again, it's much the same thing. You can also combine them, and like if your Diriga stun locks something, and you're like, oh, that would be a good target to put my little umbilical cord on, then you can shoot it with your Paracyst while it's stun locked in place, and move it around. So, how do you set those things up? I did not put damage on this. It's just fire rate. I just want to fire the tether as fast as humanly possible. So, as you can see, you practically can't even press your secondary fire button fast enough to not fire it. See, I'm tapping it as fast as I can. That was a little bit slower and it fired. So you don't really have to charge it up anymore by putting that much fire rate on it. You basically remove the charge mechanic, which makes it much more usable. And I don't like the Paracyst that much. I think the Hema is the exact same thing but more fun, and so I don't have damage mods on it. If you wanted a damage build, you should just build base damage. I mean, I'm not going to give you a build, just put base damage on it and call it a day. However, what I will give you a build for is the Diriga. So, this little guy is a very good candidate to hold a Deth Machine Rifle or other ranged sentinel weapon that you like, because he's very hardy. He has a lot of health. He has less shields and armor than Carrier Prime, but his attack precept has a much longer range. Carrier Prime can only attack from 10 meters away, and Diriga can attack from 70 meters away, which is the longest range of all sentinels tied with Jin. So, with your Diriga, you can start shooting enemies from much further away with your Deth Machine Rifle, which gives it time to wind up to the maximum damage with fired up, which means that you will actually do significant damage if you've put 8 Forma into your Deth Machine Rifle like I have. But even if you haven't, it has Electropulse, which has only a 5-second cooldown, meaning that your Diriga can constantly stun lock things that get too close to you that you would wish to stun lock and use as targets for your umbilical cord. Fantastic. It also has a pretty good crowd CC. This will fire a chain lightning at up to 70 enemies. At up to 7 enemies. And it's got a 10% status chance per enemy, so if you hit all 7, you have a very good chance of proccing an electricity status, which will then chain lightning again and stun all of those enemies. So this is actually pretty good, like, janky crowd control. It's very janky, but it's not a bad ability, so it's worth including. And then I've put on Mediray to top you off a little bit, and then basically just the Sentinel mods that people put on Sentinels. I wouldn't recommend using a calculated redirection because Diriga has terrible base shields, but go figure. And there you go, that's my Diriga build. Diriga's really good, Diriga's a lot of fun. If you want a different Sentinel than Carrier, and you don't like Worm Prime, which is the other Sentinel that I often use my Deth Machine Rifle on, then Diriga is a really good choice. Diriga has a lot of health, so if you have a source of healing, like NIDUS's 4, will heal your Sentinel. If you have a source of healing, then it's going to survive really well. It's really, really ugly and gives you a change of pace on something floating on your shoulder, this absolutely disgusting little ugly balloon. So, that's pretty much it.